Hello and welcome back. I'm Dawn Westmoreland coming from Asheville, North Carolina, the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains, coming from WPVM FM LP 103.7, the voice of Asheville. My show is called The Empowered Whistleblower, where I bring on guests who empower others. And that could be in the workplace, that could be in the personal life. Today, I am excited. I'm bringing him back again and again because he's just that amazing. The amazing Felix Nater. He's a security consultant. He's been interviewed by CNN Wolf Blitzer. Welcome, Felix. How are you today?
I'm more excited than you are. It's always a pleasure to work with you on these kind of projects, Dawn. Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. And my show airs every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone. It is syndicated and pre-recorded, so you may hear it at any of the 200 radio stations of the Pacifica Network in the United States, Canada, and the Virgin Islands. Boy, I am really direct and right to the point. Spent 20 years in the Air Force, and my friend Felix Nater also is retired military. And thank you for your time, your service sacrifices to our country, Felix.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dawn.
You wrote a book.
Yep.
You
Yep.
wrote a powerful book that I have. I was one of your first customers or clients to get that book.
Thank you.
This book addresses many things. How can it help companies? And then we just, in light of Brian Thompson, the CEO with United Healthcare, who just got killed, how does this all tie in together? How can we help companies be safer and people?
Fabulous. Fabulous question. I wrote the book on the direct request of my co-authors who saw me as someone that was offering a unique approach around the thing called mindset and philosophy. So this book really is a comprehensive but practical view of all of the things that someone who's involved in workplace violence prevention might want to apply. And it's very simple to follow, and it's a how-to book with a lot of call to action examples that reflect with practical utility on things you're going to encounter, things you've encountered, and opportunities to improve your situation. We wrote this book so that anybody who purchased it would say, hopefully not too often, we don't need Felix Nater. This book is comprehensive, and we'll just take what's in here and run with the ideas. To your second part of the question, Dawn, I look at workplace violence prevention as four categories, and I wrap those four categories around the OSHA regulation. And OSHA has a piece of it that says these are the four categories of workplace violence. One deals with criminal activities related to robberies and other criminal behaviors. Two deals with customers, clients, and patients interactions. Three deals with employee on employee, whether current or former employee disgruntled their situations. And then four deals with intimate partner relationships, personal relationships. So when we're talking about the unfortunate events of December 4th involving Mr. Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare Insurance, I place that under category one. It might be executive protection, but category one looms very nicely as an opportunity to build action plans because it deals with criminal conduct outside the workplace. I don't want to be the armchair analyst that I enjoy being in this particular situation, but it is unfortunate that this individual traveled to this meeting alone. Did he want it that way? Was it not part of a training program that he should have been a part of to invoke upon him his personal responsibilities as part of that executive protection responsibilities that the security team has? Did he swish the security team and say, you know, I want to go there alone? But he knew something was up, and I believe possibly failed to share it with his security team. So when you look at how to develop an action plan, the action plan addresses all of those unique potential threats and how we're going to respond to those threats. And all CEOs need to sit in and listen to their security people on what their responsibilities are in mitigating their own risks. And shooing away the security detail, I'm surmising, is not the best tact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very sad that anybody would be killed, by another person. Had the company, well, I know he was the CEO, but he had to have security people or people out there that probably could have helped prevented this or maybe mitigated it. What could have been done differently?
every executive protection team, just like every workplace violence prevention team, should introduce and make a part of threat assessment. Threat assessment. Threat assessment initially comes to you in the form of information that somebody passes along. That information needs to be proven, whether it be credible or uncredible. And with that information, once it's established as being credible, then you could deploy resources. Maybe we can remove the individual from that situation to minimize the risk. So lacking any collaboration between the CEO and the security people, assuming they have a mature security executive protection detail assigned to him, there have been greater integration and collaboration and coordination of the effort that would have prevented this, in my opinion, had it been done proactively.
Mm, 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 mm. And I love that you addressed proactively, because you and I are all about, hey, let's get to the root of the problem. Let's be proactive. Let's not just cover up the symptoms. We've talked about this before, but I think it still needs to be, asked. Why are people so reactive and not proactive?
It's a culture. The workplace is not the military. The workplace is not your law enforcement experience. The workplace is a unique setting that has non-security, non-military, non-police-oriented employees with a minority of people with those experiences. And they need to understand the verbiage and the lingo, and we need to tailor it with great emphasis on helping the employees know the difference between reactionary and proactive. If you look at the definitions of both, reaction actually is a loss of control in the definition, as it's stated in the definition in the dictionaries, whereas proactive gives you control because you're anticipating measures and steps that you can take that in an event of a situation, if you were properly trained, could react based upon the substance of the knowledge of what steps and measures you should take. So the two applied integratively confuses the employee who may not know the difference in their applications. So proactive meaning you're ahead of a situation, you're in command of control, whereas reactive is you've lost control and now you're at the mercy of the person or situation.
And Felix, I have to say, I got chills when you said that. It's all about control, is being in control. Now let's talk about your book. What is the title of your book, and what do you hope that folks that read it, or maybe will go out an audiobook later on, what will they get out of this book, Felix?
It's combating workplace violence, creating and maintaining safe work environments. I don't say workplace because wherever the employee is their environment. Salesman, a nurse, a doctor, a truck driver, a service employee, field inspectors, they all have unique environment. So therefore, we have to tailor the prevention initiatives to that employee's environment. My book is an effort to integrate all of this thought that I culled from the public domain over the years in various formats and reduced it to a simple to follow with examples of things that you might want to consider employing that deal with how do you relate the employee's environment to the employee's potential risk factors? And I start off by saying, ask the employee, what are the employee's greatest risks and concerns? And then go out and do a visual examination of the environment. See from your own eyes how the employee engages with the public environment that they might be associated and involved with, and develop an approach. So this book is actually 13 chapters full of information regarding the process that takes you through this establishment of your policies, and then how to develop the action plans for the individual environments that your employees might be working in.
Yeah. Felix, I've asked you this before, but I think it's still important. What separates you from other people that are out there calling themselves security consultants?
So many, and at the risk of being, full of myself, I love the flattery piece of it. Thank you very much for implying that I am unique, but I am unique. I spent 26 years as a United States Postal Inspector in a security criminal environment where we were charged with protecting people, property, and premises all the days of our lives. So this area and this notion that I am not unique is certainly challenged by the experiences that I've enjoyed over the last 26 years. Then you add to that 8 years of specializing in a thing called workplace violence prevention, where you were responsible for coordinating the efforts established by the Postal Inspection Service's approach to workplace violence, and you dealt with senior managers and all of the subordinate managers in between, the unions, the workforce, the shop stewards. It's an immense acquisition of information that makes me feel comfortable in engaging with the victims, with the supervisors, with the managers, with the senior level officials in organizations, arbitration hearings, EEO hearings, even in civil and criminal investigations and trials.
Amazing. So it's not enough just, to come out of the military, for example. Maybe you were a cop in the military and then you got out. It doesn't make you a security consultant, because I see a lot of military people going into this, or law enforcement people. So they need the extra steps and strategies to understand how to employ safe measures and such.
I encourage for anyone in those scenarios, militaries, law enforcement, security work, to hire a coach. I made a mistake the first 2 years of establishing my business and assumed that my technical expertise would get me in the door. It was nothing further from the truth. I had to eventually hire a consultant who said, "You've done a lot of great things and you got a great package, but let's pull back a little bit and let's start all over again. And this is the approach you may want to consider." So having a business coach will create an opportunity for us, Dawn, that have so much to offer, to position it and package it from a corporate perspective that integrates and collaborates all of the technical knowledge we may have into a palatable presentation from a business orientation point of view.
And I had to say, I smiled and laughed when you said that. When we start out being entrepreneurs, work for ourselves, we find out quickly what we're very good at and where we need help. So let's talk more about your book. Is there a favorite chapter that stands out to you that is more prominent or significant to you, Felix, in your book?
Because I'm a contrarian, I oftentimes look for the opportunity to help inform people, or to open doors of opportunities in creating dialogue. So in this book, chapter 10 that deals with leadership, because I believe that our approach to workplace violence and workplace security has to be predicated on your understanding of how to integrate, right? And how to look at life from a different point of view. So I offered a chapter there, chapter 10 on leadership. I offer 2 chapters that deal with workplace violence and how to develop the policy, and then examples of the plan. So actually, I'm going to give you a 3rd one. And then I deal with 2 chapters, 8 and 9, that deal with that whole approach, that whole mindset and psychological approach to the active shooter. I defy the approach. I come up with my own model that I've used with organizations that are slightly different in terms of the verbiage, but the approach and philosophy is predicated on instructional information that empowers the employee to understand the why, the what, and the hows.
Mm-hmm. And when a company is small, but they want to be safe, what kind of measures can they take from your book? Maybe they don't have money to put in security cameras right away, or some of the strategies that you may suggest to employ. How does the everyday person that doesn't have a lot of money in a company stay safe and keep their people safe?
Good question. So I have 2 philosophies: protect the workforce against the threat of workplace violence, and protect the employer against the threat of a civil suit for negligence in providing workplace violence prevention measures. Start off with establishing your policy. What does that policy entail? Develop plans to support the policy. Nothing comprehensive. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs to be informative, that lays out what the policy says and what the employee's responsibilities are and what's management's responsibility to support the policy, and then training that addresses the policy. So if you're a small company, you don't have to get sophisticated. You can just put your employees together in a room and you treat them as adults, and you go over the policy in a mutually supportive environment where the adult gets an opportunity to ask questions and the trainer gets an opportunity to answer appropriately, to protect the organization against a civil liability negligence charge that could fall under training, policy, and management for failing to provide a safe and secure workplace. If you don't have those 3 components in place and there's an incident, an attorney is going to challenge your veracity.
Yeah, and we've been seeing lawsuits and such out there.
Immense. I mean, at one time I used to say that the average out-of-court settlement was anywhere between 400,000 and a million. But today, people that I know, lawyers that I know that are involved, I mean, millions of dollars are awarded by juries who look at these efforts at presenting a palatable approach to your prevention measures that are really just cookie cutter parcels that are placed together from the internet. Juries see your failure to be comprehensive. Juries see your failures to cover up your negligence, and they are starting to award significantly higher than in previous years' financial declarations for a variety of different reasons.
Mhm.
But they also appreciate when you're earnest. They also appreciate when you tried and something went wrong out of your control, like in the case of possibly the CEO murder.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, I know as a HR person, I've got over 30 something years, and I know safety, security is always a big thing. Should employees also add to, your measures and such? Should they also address things they would like for safety and security in their workplace? Because they may not know all the things out there.
Yes, yes. Most organizations, if they're smart, and most of them are very smart. No, there's another private organization called the National Safety Council. The
Mhm.
National Safety Council is an organization that is very comprehensive in their approach, and they offer a variety of different training relating to safety, whether it's safety in equipment handling, safety in operations, safety in workplace security, and every company knows they exist. So if they feel uncomfortable in dealing with a security consultant and they lack the resources, they should reach out to the National Safety Council for their services and perhaps begin availing themselves of what they have to offer by sending their non-security employees to those kind of sessions. But minimally, the new employee orientation should lay it out. This is what we expect. It's in your handbook. Let's go over the handbook so you understand what the expectations are. If you have any concerns, you should tell someone. Don't internalize them. Don't try to mitigate it on your own. Report what you see, right? Share what you know. This is all about collaboration in a mutually collaborative environment so that we can all be safe at work. So minimally, it's all about the employee safety and the employer's ability to provide for a safe and secure workplace.
Felix, there's always trends out there. Are you seeing any trends in the workplace that concern you with relating to the work that you do this time?
Yes, and they're coming from the COVID environment. After being locked up and locked in for almost a year in many cases, and people working remote and dealing with the remote forms of communications, team meetings, Zoom meetings, there's a sense of you don't care, I don't care,
Uh,
mentality that when brought into the workplace, it's hard to corral and manage when you tie in the societal norms, one being politics and the division around nation. And I'm speaking of the United States, even though I have consultations internationally, they're experiencing the same problem politically. You have the right or impression of a right that you can say whatever is on your mind. So insolent behavior has risen.
uh,
Insolent behavior has risen, and I say to anyone who asks me, how do you manage that? Well, you can certainly discipline them, but you're going to have a long list of people online waiting to be disciplined. So now you've got to exercise your leadership skills. Find out what is bothering this person. Find out how you can help this person overcome these issues because they are angry at the system. They're angry at the system and have and the opinion that they can say whatever they want to say these days, shy of threatening you with bodily harm. So if they're angry, they're not necessarily angry at you. They're angry at a system that has failed them in some form, fashion. And we have to diminish that intensity by having dialogue that doesn't rush to discipline, but rather rushes to resolve the issues that are bothering this person. So
yeah,
my trend is defiant behavior is up.
right. Do you ever tell managers or CEOs, what to keep out of the talk in the workplace? You can't stop everything, but you brought up, politics and, it could be healthcare. We could go on and on with other things. Are the CEOs supposed to step in or delegate to stop the talks? I mean, how do we keep people, how do we keep them safe? How do we keep them?
Dawn, I mean, as a leader, you have to be able to envision problems. If you have a radio station and that radio station might be Fox or it might be MSNBC or CNN, you know that people have political opinions of those three, news stations. So why have it on? Why not just put on nice calming music if you have to have a radio on that every now and then injects update news status?
Mhm.
But to invite problems by agitating emotions and allowing those kinds of stations to stay on is contributing to hostilities and defiant behavior. So a supervisor must keep their finger on the pulse.
Mhm.
And when situations are erupting that start to talk about politics in the workplace, calm it down. When there are issues regarding questions of how management is leading or not leading in the employee's opinion, address it immediately. Don't try to push it off or kick the can down the road, because by kicking the can down the road, you and I know that you're inviting potential problems to grow, fester, and when they fester, they manifest into physical acts of defiance. So leading today is a tough nut to crack. You've got to want to be that person that is in command and control of themselves, so that when you're disciplining, you're not injecting personal opinions. You're not losing your control. You're maintaining professionalism. You don't slip and say, Felix, you know exactly why you're being disciplined. You're nothing but a pain. Keep it all professional so that there's no emotional agitation involved and people feel as though it's a fair system. And even consider with serious disciplinary measures of bringing in someone that represents the employee's point of view so there could be a balance in that dialogue and might create trust, confidence, and credibility in that system.
Yeah. We've talked about this before, but I think it's so important to address again. Sometimes we have to let people go. I know I've worked employee labor relations, I'm an HR person. I know sometimes somebody is just not a good fit for the company.
Right.
You've talked about this before, how important it is how to release them in a professional manner. Can we get on that topic? Because I would love for people to hear this.
Real world experience is what I like to refer to. We are all parents. If you have children, you're parents. If you have long-term relationships with your friends, you have relationships that go up and down. So you should garner and glean from those experiences positive mannerisms and positive example of how you want people to treat you. And that's how you treat others. We know that I call it separations, but the word in the corporate world is called terminations. Termination. You are no longer needed here. You're gone. Terminated. I prefer separation. But there is a whole process to that process that is mandatory. We need to remove people that are no longer contributing members of our society. But the approach to that separation has to be congenial in a way where it's professional. You don't have to be warm and fuzzy and lose the scope of what your responsibility is, but you can certainly manage the environment from a professional point of view, encouraging dialogue and creating an exit plan that incorporates how we can help that person facilitate new opportunities in the future. Or if that person is removed because of serious behavior, that we're not going to give anything that we shouldn't be giving to the caller unless it involves a death threat. Then, of course, we have a duty and obligation to inform the gaining employer of potential at-risk behaviors. But we should tone down the negativity of the word termination and look at it as a business necessity that requires that employee to refocus and maybe reestablish himself or herself somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've noticed, and I'm sure other people have noticed now, there are women shooters, but mainly there are men shooters. And why are there more men shooters than women shooters out there, active shooters?
Using myself, I am so focused on always wanting to do the right thing that when I am not planning for it and something goes astray or awry or out of my control, I lose it temporarily and then regain focus. I don't know whether it's that man's ego or whether it's that man's susceptibility to being criticized and then the emotional response to it. So I'm not wanting to get into it as a psychologist or sociologist sociologist. But I think when you hurt a man who's focused in on helping his family, his ego is bruised, and the lack of appreciation for how to manage those emotions, sometimes without proper assistance or intervention, they go up that escalator a little bit faster than necessary, which is why in my book I address the 5 stages that were originally conceived of by the designer of the active shooter program, that walks the people through and appreciating how these angry people transition from disgruntled to thoughts of homicidal vengeance and retaliation. So specifically, Dawn, I don't want to put my big mouth into it, but I don't know why there's a major distinction. But from a personal analogy, I know that I am focused on making sure that my family is protected. I'm focused on making sure that if my daughter is out from the home, I know where she is. So,
Yeah.
right. So it might be a heightened sense of manly egoness, to establishing my position in life as being in command and control. And when I'm injured, fortunately, in my case, when I'm injured, I don't personalize the injury. I look at it as what went wrong and how do I resolve it. Others may not have the emotional intellect or the emotional intelligence to sit back and say, okay, so now things have changed. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to pick up a hammer, or are you going to pick up the phone and have a dialogue?
Mm. And who is your ideal client to work with at this time? You've been working decades in this. Who's your ideal at this time?
I didn't give you this question to ask me, but I had a conversation this morning with one of my associates who offered me an opportunity to work with an ideal client. Today, here's my ideal client: a client who recognizes that they mean well, they may have a program, and they want an independent evaluation of what their program looks like to take them to the next level. My ideal client is also a client that has something in place, but they want to take it to the next level, and they want to introduce more than what they currently had. My ideal client is a small and mid-sized organization that has minimal in place, and they're looking for a comprehensive approach. And they decided they want to work with someone like me that offers consultation, because the training piece of my consultation deals with making and sustaining demonstrable improvements, demonstrable changes. I am not someone you want to call for compliance purposes, unless the dialogue goes like this: Mr. Nater, I am the director of compliance, and I have an opportunity to bring you in to help our organization see what we're trying to achieve. And we think you're the right representative to help us do that. I'm excited about working in that realm, but I'm not excited in working in a realm where it's check the box for annual training, because I know from the calls and conversations and the post-training conversations I've had with employees that they appreciate the level of approach I introduced versus what the other guy did, and versus sitting in front of a computer and clicking the forward button. So it's got to be qualitative.
Watching videos and watching, and the person is not engaged.
Yes.
They can't ask questions and such. Felix, how can people find your book, and how can they reach out to you to find out more about what you offer and your services?
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm all over LinkedIn, and I'm all over X, making my exit pretty soon to the new one, Sky Blue. My website is www.naterassociates.com. My office here is 704-784-0260. And if you want to catch me anytime, I don't care time of the day, my mobile number is 516-946-8416. You could buy my book on Amazon, or you could find the link on LinkedIn and order it directly from my publisher. If you do that, then of course there's some reciprocal financial benefit and reward for me, whatever you decide to do. And I have an offering that I want to share right now, Dawn, if I may. If anyone buys my book and sends me a receipt that they purchased the book, I will send them a complimentary book that they can give to whomever they want to give.
Oh,
Just
wow.
buy one book and I will send you a compliment.
That's a really good deal.
Send
That's
me
a
a copy
very
of the receipt
generous
to
deal. It's a very
send me a copy
comprehensive
of the receipt
book.
to Nater at naterassociates.com, and I will send you a book as long as you give me a mailing address.
Awesome. Felix, thank you. Thank you always for your sage advice and trying to keep us all safe. To listeners, stay empowered. I'm Dawn Westmoreland, your talk host. I'm a resiliency coach, author, speaker, and writer. If you need any help with resiliency, courage, and such, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you. If I can't help you, I will refer you to someone who can. Stay empowered. We'll see you next time.
Been my pleasure.